Hello, today I will be talking about how Greek myths shaped ancient Greek society. The people of ancient Greek society valued the gods and the deities that they believed in, and the gods were a big part of what made them a society. According to Jean-Pierre Verdun in his Myth and Society in Ancient Greece, he says the Greeks made no such clear-cut distinctions between man and his internal world, the social world, and its hierarchy, the physical universe, and the supernatural world or society of the gods. So in today's presentation, there will be specific gods that I'll be talking about, and these gods carried major roles in ancient society because they reflected the beliefs and cultures of the people of that time. Since all the historians or the people who were transcribing all these myths and legends were men, these writings and the stories that survive of these gods reflect how these men thought and what kind of society existed in that time. Although Zeus was officially married to Hera, the first ever wife he had was Metis, and today I'll be talking about the story of Metis and what Greek historians that time talked about between Zeus and Metis. So basically, Zeus was married to Metis, and they were going to have a child, which would later be Athena. But Zeus heard a prophecy that his daughter, or whoever the child was going to be, might overthrow him or might become like equal to him. So he didn't want that kind of competition. So he basically ate Metis. And some historians say that Metis was like in his liver, and then some historians say that Metis lived in Zeus's mind. Whatever that may be, Metis was still very much alive and very much pregnant inside of Zeus, and she was forging a helmet for Athena, basically, and whatever that child might be, Athena. And Zeus, he got an ear-splitting headache because of all the noises inside his head or inside his body. So he asked someone else to split open his head because obviously he was immortal and that wouldn't have killed him. But then when they opened Zeus's head, Athena came out because Metis had already gone to labor and had already birthed Athena, and Metis dies. But a lot of Greek historians, they've altered the story to say that Zeus gave birth to Athena because it came out of his head, which isn't accurate, but at the same time, a lot of Greek historians were patriarchal and they wanted to believe that a man gave birth to a child, which makes no sense, but that is what the myth is. In this picture, you can actually see that Zeus is sitting down, and underneath his throne or within him, there is Metis. This also shows typical Greek patriarchy, that the woman is shown as beneath the man or inside the man or part of the man, which is just a reflection of how they thought of women. Talking about Athena, the daughter of Zeus, she became the warrior goddess. She used to aid heroes in war, and she was known for her wisdom, and she would give these male heroes advice. And one of the biggest, I think, points about Athena is that despite her origins, she was a part of the pantheon of gods residing in Mount Olympus, which I feel is a big deal. And the reason why she was so favored by the men of Greece was that she favored them. She favored male heroes such as Hercules, Odysseus, Achilles, and she would sponsor any man that she thought had potential to be a legend so that her name could be furthered. One point of interest is that she never took interest in female warriors who had equal or even greater caliber than these Greek male heroes, such as the Amazonian princesses. They were also very ferocious warriors and great fighters, but she never took an interest in them or sponsored them because they were female, and apparently women weren't as strong or smart or great as men. So this again portrays the belief in the patriarchal society of Greece that men weren't just superior to women, but they were the only ones who were worth considering heroes in the eyes of the gods. Hera was the goddess of marriage and the official wife of Zeus that sat next to him on his throne in Mount Olympus. One of the most interesting parts of Hera is that she would become extremely jealous and vengeful towards the women Zeus would have an affair with, and Zeus had an affair with many nymphs and goddesses, and because she could not punish Zeus for his wrongdoings, she would turn her wrath towards these women who often didn't have a choice in the affair. Zeus would blatantly rape them, and then Hera would find out and further punish them, which again shows how women would blame women for men's wrongdoings. One of the greatest examples of Hera showing her wrath towards the wrong person is Leto. Leto did not want to have an affair with Zeus, but Zeus raped her, and Hera eventually found out when she found out that Leto was pregnant. Instead of punishing Zeus, she punishes Leto by banishing her. The earth shunned her basically. She could not give birth, so she was walking around the earth trying to find somewhere where she can go into labor. And finally she found the island of Delos, which is a floating island that isn't connected to the earth from the seabed, and that's why she was able to give birth to twins Apollo and Aphrodite. This again shows that number one, men in the patriarchal society of Greece did not believe that rape was a bad thing, because the story of Leto and Hera and Zeus is often romanticized. Secondly, the fact that Hera punished Leto was seen as right and just when in the truth it isn't. So it just shows us how the society really thought of things and what kind of values they had around women and their rights and their bodies. Now talking about the twin god and goddesses from Leto. The first twin was Apollo. He was a god of archery, medicine, poetry, prophecy, etc. He had many love interests in both men and women, and being gay wasn't viewed as something bad, although gay marriages were. But the hypocritical part was that lesbianism was seen as disgraceful and heinous. So this shows that since men were superior to women, if they did something, it wasn't seen as bad, and since a god was doing it, it was fine. But if the same thing was being done by a woman in the opposite gender, it would be seen as something bad, and would be that women would be disgraced according to that, which shows again the hypocritical part of society, that the same rules didn't apply for men as did the woman. One of the most famous stories about Apollo is his supposed romance with Daphne. It wasn't really a romance as is shown by Greek historians. Daphne was a forest nymph who Apollo took an interest in. Daphne actually had no interest in Apollo, and Apollo insisted on pursuing her. It became so bad that she feared that he would rape her, as gods were known to do, so she called out for the help of a nearby river god, who turned her into a tree. So this shows that Apollo and many other gods or men, they saw women as objects to be used or taken as they pleased, and they failed to see them as humans with minds and feelings of their own.
Artemis was the second twin from Leto. She was leader of the hunt, and the hunt consisted of these immortal goddesses who all were virgins, and this was seen as virtuous, which also solidified the Greek belief in society that virginity is a virtue, and those who had intercourse outside of marriage were tainted, and men would not want to marry them or have ties with them. Mainly, she was a protector. She protected the women that were her responsibility. She used to protect the animals in the forest, but historians didn't show that, as you can see in the story of Actaeon.
The story that bolstered this belief of Artemis being some sort of crazy goddess who's vengeful and kind of has a wild spirit or animalistic spirit is because of this incident where there was this man who had accidentally seen her while she was bathing in a river. When Artemis saw that this man was looking at her, she instantly told her hounds to pounce upon him, and she drew her arrow and killed him. So, like, this also bolsters the negative view, and again, this is what Greek historians write about her. We don't know for sure what the real story was. Maybe that man somehow threatened her or, was being creepy or something like that. We don't know the full story, so whether or not, Artemis actually did this or whether it was self-defense, whatever the case may be, Artemis is shown as a cruel and evil goddess in this story.
So, what kind of society existed in ancient Greece? As we saw from the presentation, it was extremely patriarchal, where men thought they were superior from women, and women were seen as objects that could be bartered and used, who had no real feelings, and they could do anything with them. One of the key points that most people often overlook when going through Greek mythology is the hypocrisy of men, and they would do things, and then when